and Chhetri have won the Hero ISL. Hyderabad are the Hero Indian Super League champions.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Let's Football live show this fine Tuesday, this fine World Cup Tuesday. There's a lot of football action happening these days. The World Cup is, of course, on with the Hero ISL action on the weekends. And on this episode, we bring to you a manager who, among all the other managers who joined the Hero Indian Super League, this time was among the ones who fans were most excited to watch, to see with the club and to ply his trade, because he's managed clubs like Sunderland, like Blackpool and Leeds United in the past, and now he's back with us with his very good friend Phil Brown. So without any further ado, I will invite Simon Grayson and Phil Brown to join us on the Let's Football live show. Gentlemen, I know there's a bit of history between you. You guys go way back, so we will address how you guys know each other briefly. But I want to come to you first, Simon. How are you doing this evening in Bengaluru?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Yeah, just finished my evening meal and now all washed up and ready to talk to you for the next period of time. So yeah, all good, thank you.
Lovely. Let's just bring Phil Brown right back in. Phil, I want to go back to how you and Simon know each other. Can you tell us a bit about that? And two fine Englishmen, sort of, on this episode again.
We've managed a couple of clubs at different times, obviously. Simon managed Blackpool, I managed Blackpool. Simon managed Preston North End, I managed Preston North End at different periods of time. So we go back a long way in terms of the playing side of it, the history of the management side of it. I've known Simon years, absolutely years, great manager. And it's fantastic for Indian football to see him in this country plying his trade still.
So Simon, were there a few phone calls that went Phil Brown's way before you decided to cross the sea and come to India?
Well, it's funny because my lad's a professional footballer and he was at Barrow last year when Phil was the manager. So I was going up last year to watch a few games and saw Phil a few times for a few conversations. And once I got the opportunity to come to India on a permanent basis, then obviously I touched base with him, like I did with numerous other coaches that have been out here, Owen Coyle, John Gregory a few years ago when I first thought about coming to India. So you have to pick the brains of people that have been out here, and not just for the footballing reasons, but for the life experience and everything that comes with moving away from home. But more recently, the last year, it was watching my son play while Phil was managing him.
Just with that in mind, Simon, how's he doing? I know you got a nice move, didn't he?
Yeah, he's gone up to Dundee in Scotland, and they're top of second or a point behind one of the teams. So we're trying to get back to the Scottish Premier League. We're trying to play Celtic and Rangers, playing every week. Playing in midfield most of the time now, where you played him, and he was playing previously at centre back and left back. So he's a versatile player, enjoying playing, and yeah, he's doing okay.
Well, absolutely lovely. So, Simon, let's start with you. In the sense of, let's start with your overview of the club so far. Have you felt the sense of community and strong fan culture that's usually associated with Bengaluru FC in your time with the club so far?
Oh, 100%. When I was talking to the staff before I joined, or even when I joined and before I came out to the country, people were telling me how much it was a family club. And they've not disappointed me because of the people behind the scenes have made me feel really welcome in the offices, to people that I work with on a daily basis, to the supporters. It's strange because we see this group of Bengaluru fans at the hotel the day after the games, and it's the same group of 6 to 10 people all the time. And how they know where we're staying in different parts of the country, I will never know. Well, I do know, but it just shows you their commitment. And in England, you lose a game and people are a little bit more aggressive towards you, but these fans are really positive towards you, saying, look, we'll win the next one. We like what you're doing and we'll get it right. And it's been so exciting and refreshing to be involved in this situation, both the football side, but also on the personal side as well, because I'm coming to a new country, which I've never done before. And I feel like I'm at home from day one.
Simon, can I open up with a question as well? This is my part of my life now. It's my part of the job, and I've got to ask the managers the question. And I try to think of my time as a manager and what kind of questions irk you, what kind of questions are okay with you, etc., etc. So I've told the guys behind the scene we want to be totally respectful of the kind of questions that we ask you. But the first question I want to ask is, you've had an illustrious career as a manager, let alone a player, and managed a number of teams right the way through the divisions in England. At Bengaluru, have you found any fundamental basics or differences managing a club in India compared to your history in the game in England?
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why I came here, because I've been totally in the UK playing and managing, and you have to change and learn different aspects of your coaching. You're coming out of a comfort zone. You're dealing with different personalities. Indian players are different to British players. You're dealing with foreigners, which some don't speak the language, and England speak the language. You deal with the conditions. You're dealing with a different schedule, and that was one of the big attractions why I came, because I had opportunities to stay in England in the summer, and I wanted to explore something new and do something that is going to be a life experience that I can say, look, I've had this opportunity and I took it, whether I'm successful or not. I took about me to go out there and develop as a coach, because that's what I'm doing. I'm not the finished article, far from it, and I've got 750 games under my belt, something like that, and I'm now doing things that I've never had to do in terms of coaching, because I'm working with different types of players, different staff, different people above me, and it's the whole package that has really enticed me to come here to learn about myself in many aspects of football management.
So, Simon, tell us a bit more about the initial contact that the club made with you. What were you doing when that first phone call came, for example, and how did the conversations go? Tell us about what finally convinced you to come over and join Bengaluru FC. Tell us the story of how that happened.
Well, my first thoughts of what happened in India was 2 years ago. I came out here to see Martin Bain, who was my CEO at Sunderland, and I came out to Mumbai for 5 days holiday, and then went on to Goa for the final. And I think it was Chennai with Owen Coyle in charge, and played ATK. And I liked the experience, but then 2 weeks later, the pandemic comes around. But it was always something that I thought maybe something might happen. And I don't think it's any secret that another club approached me as well to come in the summer. And then Bengaluru came more or less at the same time. And I'd looked at both sets of clubs, and I thought, I like the idea of this. It's a big city, big people, and I just felt it was a perfect fit for me. And the conversation I had with Mandar and Mustafa, who's in charge of the JSW Sporting Group, then conversations with Path in London, just felt right. I felt that I hit it off with these people really well, and before you know it, negotiations are all done, and I'm on a flight out from Manchester to Bengaluru.
It's a fantastic story, Simon. And for me, winning the Durand Cup, I mean, what a start to your life in India. But since the Durand Cup, you've had 2 wins in 8 games and 9th in the league. Can you sort of point us towards the main reasons behind the lack of form in the league, yet winning a trophy before the season even starts?
Yeah, look, I think it's a pre-season tournament, and not all the teams had the best players out. I'll be honest with that. Some of the teams didn't even turn up, which is respectful. They can do that. But we had a good mentality. We had a good pre-season. We were full of confidence. We got the breaks in certain games as well. We played Hyderabad in the semi-final, and how we beat them 1-0, I will never know. But that's part and parcel of football. And then you learn about sort of your players a little bit more detail. We played predominantly 3-5-2, 3-4-1-2 in the Durand Cup. But then it was feeling that we weren't creating enough. So we've gone back to a back 4 and played 4-3-3 because of the heat and the humidity as well. It's very difficult for your wing backs to get constantly up and down. And I think you know as well as I do, Phil, in football there's real fine margins, and we haven't had them fine margins go our way in the league compared to maybe in the Durand Cup. And hopefully that changes very quickly to the point of the games that we lost, where we lost 4 on the trot. Three of them games we lost 1-0, and all 3 were mistakes by individual players. And then I think it was Odisha, the lad hits it from outside the box, and it's an absolute worldie. And before you know it, you've lost 4 games on the trot where you don't really deserve to. And we weren't creating enough chances, I'll be honest about that, but we were still being very much in games, but getting beat by mistakes. And then we put on a great performance at Goa after a disappointing result at Mumbai. Saying that, for the first half, we played really well against Mumbai, and 2 mistakes have had us 2-0 down at half time. And then second half I was not happy because it felt like we sort of we made it too easy for Mumbai. And when you allow an opposition like that to have it too easy out of possession, they can beat anybody 3, 4, 5, and 6. And we restricted it to 4. But we had a reaction at Goa and had a fantastic work ethic. We had an edge to us. We were ruthless both boxes. And we did the same again at the weekend against ATK Monahan. We played really well and limited, I think, the best front 4 in the division to 1 shot on target and 1 bit of magic. It's the top of the corner. Javi has a chance 1-on-1 in the first 10 minutes, and the week before he scored 2 goals. And they're fine margins. I think, and I'd like to be, I think I'd give a fair assessment of matches all the time, that if we'd scored the first goal, I think we would have beat ATK Monahan on Saturday. And then, it's back-to-back wins and the confidence is even higher. And you're then going into a run of games where they've got a lot of games at home. We've had a tough start because we've had many games away from home. In our schedule, I think out of the 8 games, we've played 5 away. So we've had that schedule. But I don't think we're too far away from being a good team and really cracking on. And it's a tight division. You get back-to-back wins and you can suddenly get yourself up that table and be very close to where you want to get to.
Yeah. Simon, I just want to go back to that Mumbai City FC game, which you happened to lose 4-0 away. And we saw you giving one of the most unfiltered and honest interviews on pitch side that any of the managers have given so far this season, and that was well appreciated. How did you think that the dressing room responded to your words? Because you pointed towards maybe a lack of fight in how you spoke. What was the journey from that interview that you gave to then having a reaction against FC Goa and going on to win the game? Can you tell us how the dressing room responded to that entire episode?
Well, if you'd had the cameras inside the dressing room after I'd done that interview, you might have seen a completely more aggressive side to me. I think the players were very shocked by what happened in that dressing room because I was very upset about it. And they accepted it. They accepted that when you lose 4-0, it isn't acceptable sometimes. And we got back into work a couple of days later, and there was a real edge to the players. They were not fighting with each other, but they were more aggressive in everything they were doing, with the passing, the closing down, and there were little tussles in training, which I've not seen too much. And in football, you have to play with an edge about you. You can't be mates with somebody off the pitch, on the pitch as well. You've got to be the opposition's worst enemy. And you've got to come out on top and do whatever you can do. And we did that against Goa. And I could sense that there was a reaction to the players. We defended well. We passed the ball. We were clinical. And again, the build-up to the game at the weekend. We really pleased with the players' performance and how they responded. And that's what I expected. And Sunil, obviously, the icon of Indian football, said, look, you'll get a reaction out of us. And I certainly did. And really pleased that we got that. And we've got to keep improving week in and week out, day in, day out.
Simon, I was watching your comments in the press, and it's always nice to hear honesty from all of the coaches, but your comments in the press, you were talking about, your targets for the season, etc., etc. But having had such a sort of an indifferent start, shall we say, are your targets for the season changing, or have they changed during the course of the last 4 or 5 games? Because as I can hear from you, you're talking, you're motivated, you're still out there, you're pushing. It sounds to me as you're on the training ground every day, pushing every player. Have your targets changed? Or are you still capable? And have you still got the right balance in your team to get in the playoffs?
In terms of the players, I think it's never easy when you come to a club and you'll know that you'd like a number of your own players because of how you want to play. You can go and cherry pick them and have them in your squad. I inherited all of this squad. The one input I had was into Alex Jukanovic and Roy to a certain degree, but they were a long way down the line of doing Roy. But so I would like to have a change of the players at times because you want your own players on board and you're sure with your sort of characteristics. But what the players have done is they've responded well. And going back to the first part of the question, our target hasn't changed. Our target is still to try and get into the playoffs. Unfortunately for our football club, that we've been on a bit of a downward curve for the last couple of years, finishing 7th and 8th. But there was a reminder to the players this morning that this time last year, the club had still been on a bad run and only started the season poorly in the league and then just missed out the last couple of games of the season about getting into the playoffs. And you only have to get a couple of back-to-back wins, and you can really get yourself in touching distance. And we know that if we can get into that touching distance, we've got some good players that will get better, because some of our so-called big players and have earned a reputation for that are not probably playing to the level that they're capable of playing. And that's just being honest. And they know that themselves. So if I can get them firing even more, and the younger players pushing them to get better and better, there's no reason why we can't still get into the playoffs. And I think that will be the case for all the teams in the division, because I think it's really tight. I think anybody can beat anybody on any particular day.
Yeah. Simon, I just want to touch upon your sort of football philosophy for a moment, if we could, because Bengaluru FC has had a lot of managers in the past with different philosophies, even as recently as last season. From your perspective, how would you describe the style of football that you would want to impose on Bengaluru FC, both in the short term and the long term? I ask that because there have been murmurs within some fans. It's not exactly widespread opinion, but there have been murmurs that it's been a departure from what the team played last season. So how do you see this entire thing?
Yeah, I think it goes back to a little bit like the players were recruited to play a certain way last year, and I want to try and play a different way, but maybe not got the players to play how I want to play, but played how the previous coach played. But you have to then work with this group of players and try and get the best out of them. I'm a pragmatic coach. If we can play out from the back and through the thirds, then we will do so. If we've got the opportunity to play a ball down the side with a quick striker, then we can do that. I've always had my teams play exciting football. At Leeds, we would win games 4-1, 3-1, 5-2s or whatever. And I want us to do that as well. But it's then having the right personnel to be able to do that, really. It's if you've got defenders that are predominantly good defenders and not the most elegant on the ball, then I'm not saying our players are, then you don't give them the ball as often as you would do if you've got sort of a Van Dijk playing from the back, or if you've got a small striker, you don't need to be playing long balls up, so you have to work a different way and utilise a quick striker. So you've got to change.
Yeah,
I want to play aggressive attacking football, winning second balls and being on the front foot. I'm having honest groups of players that will run through a brick wall, because that's how I was a player when I played as midfield or defence. That's all I wanted to do. And the big thing that I've always said to players is that, especially after matches, make sure you have no regrets. If you can look yourself in the mirror the next morning, and if we've won, lost, or drawn, and you think I could not have done any more, then you'll be fine by me, because that's all you want: honesty within your team.
Simon, I've always wondered about you and your managerial career. You seem to have records at every football club that you've been to, a sort of a longest winning streak at that club. What is that about your managerial career that you can boast probably at Preston North End, at Blackpool, at Leeds, the longest winning run? And it's probably something that you might need for the second half of the season where Bengaluru is concerned.
Well, I think it's knowing your players and getting the best out of them. Again, you'll know like I do, man management of your players is vital. You've got to make sure that you keep on everybody on their toes. You're not the best friends, but you want them to be acceptable and not feel restricted in anything that they do. And I've always said from day one with this group of players that if you are trying to do something positively in the final third, I will not argue with you. I will not have a go at you whatsoever. If you're a striker trying to nutmeg a defender in our 18-yard box, you give a goal away, you might see a different side to me. So I'm never overcritical of players, and I just want the best from them, to give 100% week in and week out and make them feel $1 million when they walk onto that pitch, like young players. I had a conversation with Bhutia this morning and saying to him, I genuinely believe he could be an Indian international. And he looked at me as if to say, are you kidding? I'm like, no. And that's what you have to be. And if you're telling somebody lies as such and you don't believe in it, you get found out. But these conversations I have with players is I do generally tell the honest truth of what I think can happen with players. So confidence is a big thing. Belief in players is a big thing. And belief in themselves is probably the biggest thing, that all of a sudden players doubt themselves too easy. And then when they get the confidence back, they maybe don't start believing themselves as much as they should do as well. So it's getting the right balance with them.
Yeah, and of course, we saw the pictures earlier in the day as well, Simon. You with 29-year-old midfielder Pablo Perez, the Spaniard, who under your reign can we is it fair to say that he was a signing that you sort of wanted the club to go out and get and has essentially your blessings over it?
Yeah, definitely. Look, when we lost Prince Abira through injury in Durant Cup, that was a big blow for us to have somebody ruled out from more or less. Well, he was from pre-season, then had an operation on his hamstring, which ruled him out for the rest of the season. We had to go and try and find another foreigner, and we looked at bringing in maybe a same replacement. But with Pablo, he can play in numerous positions. He can play as an attacking midfield player, 10 or 9 off the sides. And you do your homework as a manager. I spoke to Victor Orta, who's the technical director at Leeds, who's obviously Spanish and knows lots about Spanish players. And he said, look, 100% take him. He's got a great pedigree, good experience, handles the ball. He's a really good player. Plus, you're watching all his clips and speaking to the player as well over a Zoom call while he was in Heon. Makes your mind up as well, because you get a feel for the player. You get a feel that he's desperate to come. He wants to play for you. He wants to play for the club. He wants to be in the city. And it just ticked a lot of boxes. And he landed the other day, and he's not joined in with us yet because of he's obviously still not 100% match fit or anything. But hopefully we can get him up to speed as quickly as possible, and we have another vital cog in our attacking armoury, because it's been difficult when you lose Prince, and having missed a few games as well, and Utanda missed last weekend, and Roy and Sunil have not probably been firing all cylinders. We've just been lacking that real sort of quality at the top end of the pitch. So hopefully he will add that competition for places and quality.
Sounds to me, Simon, the way you're talking, the top end of the pitch is the main aim to put right probably in the second half of the season. And I've had this conversation with lots of people. I've been in India for 4 years and watching Sunil Chhetri develop, over the course of them 4 years, develop into one of the greatest players that's ever played Indian football at national team level, etc., etc. And straight away, my question automatically to people is, surely there's a coach there. Surely there's a head coach or a manager in there. Have you had any conversations with Sunil about life after football?
Yeah, loads of conversation. I get on really well with him. He's an absolute, you'll know, you've had conversations with an absolute diamond person, a human being. And when I spoke to him before I came out, he was just full of belief and confidence about the club's excitement. He's an absolute wonderful person, but obviously a great footballer and an icon. And unless you've been to India, people will, no disrespect, people don't know Sunil too much. But when you're in India, every airport that we're at, every time we go out for something to eat, every hotel we stay at, he's the most photographed person that you can imagine. And I do have these conversations with him, and I think he, one part of him does fancy doing his badges. Another part sees the stress and that we all have to go through as well. He says it's hard enough, as we all know as ex-players, looking after yourself, never mind as a coach looking after 30 odd players, load of supporters, staff below you, above you. It is a different role as being a coach. And I was at a function with his wife recently. My wife had come over, and she was saying they would like a little bit of time out and just go and do some travelling if they can do, and then he can have a thought process of what he's going to do whenever that may be, because he's been an absolutely fantastic servant. And for us, he's still got plenty more to give. And he's such a hungry guy, humble guy, and a great a leader for the younger players. Great inspiration for these younger players to look up, because he's first out onto the training pitch doing his stretching every day, and he's still last on the training pitch. And sometimes you have to say, come on, Sunil, you're 38, rest them legs and get ready for the weekend now. But what a guy. I love him to bits.
With that in mind, I know Suyash wants to get in with another question. I'm guaranteeing you this, but I want to stay on Sunil, because he's been a focus of my attention in them 4 years. How he must conduct his life off the field of play must be absolute, iconic to everybody. Must be a great example. But we're having a conversation with the national team coach, and we're discussing what his best position would be. And with Roy Krishna up there, you've got a ready-made number 9. Roy leads the line, etc., etc. Would there be an argument to get him into the middle of the pitch, or is that probably where Pablo Perez is going to be playing?
Look, we've my intention, and we did it in the Durant Cup. When I saw the group of players that I had available, was that we are perfect to play 3-4-1-2, because that's how I like playing. And I thought we could have three good centre backs. You would have Prabedas and Roshan as your two wing backs with opportunity of others. You would have people like Bruno, Suresh as your holding midfield players, and Rohit and Jayesh as well. Javi is your new signing as your number 10. And then the partnership on paper of Krishna and Chhetri, it looked like it was a dream partnership. And we have had to change it around a little bit, and for the best of the team. It's not to say we won't put them two up front in a 4-4-2 or a 3-4-1-2 again, because they do have this wonderful understanding of how each other play, and good players can bounce off each other. So at the start, the process was to have him there, and even part of the Durant Cup, we played him in the number 10 role. And we played young Shiva up alongside Roy. And we've tried these permutations. We've just gone back to a little bit basics recently of playing the 4-3-3 and left Sunil out for a couple of games as well, and brought him back in at the weekend because Utandu was injured. But wherever you're going to play Sunil, he'll give everything that he can for the team. But it's getting the right balance at this moment in time for our football club rather than any individual.
Simon, you mentioned Shiva Sakti also in your answer over here. And since you did mention him, I know Sunil Chhetri rates him very highly. How highly do you rate him? Because he's been called natural finisher. And tell us what this often used phrase natural finisher even means, because, it's used so often. But how do you see Shiva Sakti in his development?
Well, there's no point asking me being a natural goal scorer. I think I scored 12 in my career. So you're from a coach's perspective you're talking about, aren't you? Look, I think with Shiva, he burst onto the scene in the Durant Cup. The club obviously knew about him, and he's been around the B team last year and on the fringes of some first team action. But we took him to the Durant Cup and did really well. It's like any striker, they go through purple periods where everything that he hit in the Durant Cup went in. In the final, he ran over the top of Fall and chipped the goalkeeper. Where this moment in time, he's just not having the breaks. You saw on Saturday, toe pokes one, it hits the bar. I think pre-season, that hits the underside of the bar and goes in, and we get an equaliser. We had a reserve game today, and he played up front, and he had a couple of opportunities, and he hits a post, and the keeper makes a save. So they go through these highs and lows, but what he does do, every day in training, he works extremely hard. He's got raw pace. He wants to run the channel. He knows he still needs to work on his hold-up play and his strength, because he's still a young kid and he's not the most physical, but he's got a natural goal-scoring ability, as you mentioned, and pace to go with it. And that's every defender's nightmare. And again, I think like a number of our strikers, that once a couple of goals go in for each of them, then we'll see an improvement in confidence and more goals from them.
Simon, I was asked a question during the course of the game in your last match about Roy Krishna and what do coaches do where goal scorers are concerned and they're not scoring goals. My answer was quite simple. You've got to leave him out there. What would your answer be? Would it be you've got to play him because the goals will eventually come, because he leads the line so well for you?
Yeah, he does. And look, somebody like Roy and Sunil and others, at some point they will score goals because they've done it all their careers. So all you keep telling Roy is to keep making the runs, keep being positive. Every time we do shooting exercises, I'm saying, be more selfish. You can't be looking to score the perfect goal. If you get half a yard, don't try and take another touch to get another half a yard to give you the perfect opportunity to score. You have to take things quick, because something will deflect off a defender. You might miss-hit one and it'll go in, and that'll get you up and running. And it's a positive mind frame and mindset that you have to have as a coach with them players, because they are affected by confidence and not scoring goals, because that's what they're all judged on come the end of the season. So leaving Roy in isn't a problem at this moment in time. Look, at some point, I maybe have to change things around, but at the moment, he's doing enough to stay in the team, and hopefully, I thought the weekend would be perfectly set up for him to score. I thought playing against his previous club, he might just have something to prove. He might just nick something. And you just saw probably he got an opportunity on the edge of the box, and is looking for the bottom corner to be precise finish, where then really sort of when you're not scoring, just put your foot through it, hit the target. The balls might swerve around, the keeper might make a mistake, and you're up and running. I think he was trying to be a little bit too precise. So emphasis for the last few weeks, and certainly next few weeks for the strikers, will be more positive and test the goalkeepers more.
I'm sure they're taking notes as you speak right now, Simon. And just to wrap this conversation up finally, you mentioned how you don't consider yourself as the finished article even in terms of being a manager. So how much has this experience in India so far? You have a 2-year contract, but over the last few months, how has this experience helped you grow as a manager, or have you grown as a manager in your eyes in the short time you've been here?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. When you lose 4 games on the trot, you learn about yourself, and it tests yourself. When I'm losing matches, it hurts even more now than it did when I was the Leeds United manager, and I supported Leeds, so it hurt me a lot then. But when we lose games, it hurts me immensely. I don't sleep much after games because I'm constantly thinking of what we need to do better, and that's the drive and the desire that I've got in me to be successful. I want to come here and be successful, and I don't want to go home and people say, well, I just came out here for a holiday and went off to see the Taj Mahal and went to see the other sites of India and had the life experience. I want to win matches. I want to be judged on a good coach that has won the Durant Cup already, that wants to go and win other matches. And that's sort of in my DNA, because I've been in football nearly 38 years, and I'm not prepared to give up on it too quickly. And I want to sort of give back to the football club the trust what the people above me and below me are working extremely hard to do, because it is a fantastic football club and I'm really enjoying it here. And if I didn't enjoy it here, some might have said, "Oh, just go back to England. I've done 5 months or whatever. Go and see my family and stuff like that." But I've told my wife she's coming out here more than I'm going home to see her, which sometimes doesn't have a good effect. But I'm hopefully here for a long time because I really enjoy what I'm doing.
I think you can hear the commitment in your voice, Simon, as far as I'm concerned. As a manager that's managed over here, I wish you all the best, and I really do. I like to see the English managers do well. I like to see the English players do well, but it's not about England. It's about managers that you know are genuine and honest and bringing everything to the party that they can possibly bring to hopefully get the success that you deserve. And I hope, fingers crossed, it goes well for you in the future.
Cheers, Phil. Appreciate that. Thanks very much.
Yeah, you summed it up perfectly, Phil. Thank you so much for joining us here today, Simon. It's been a very insightful chat. We've been speaking for about 33 minutes, and I do believe that you have more important matters to tend to after this. With the fans obviously latching onto every word that you said would be music to their ears, to see the commitment and dedication in your voice to turn things around at Bengaluru FC. So thank you so much for joining us on the Let's Football Live show, Simon, and wish you all the best for the rest of the season.
Thanks very much. Really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Right, and to everyone watching, please do tune in to further episodes of the Let's Football Live show. Remember, every Tuesday we'll be coming to you next week once again. Until then, it's goodbye from us. Take care.
And Chhetri have won the Hero ISL. Hyderabad are the Hero of Indian Super League champions.